Hello every pony, and welcome to a fanfic reading of Bros in Equestria. Chapter 3. Exposition and Espionage. Canterlot looked even more impressive on the inside than it did from the outside, and that was saying something. Cobblestone streets melded with marble towers in the ways you could barely believe. You and Mouse stood in awe at the remarkable city these ponies had built for themselves as the rest of your friends filed out of the car. Twilight approached the two of you with a smile. "Follow me and stay close, you two. We're headed to the royal palace," she says. "Understood," Mouse answered. You gave her a smile of your own. "Lead the way, Twilight." As you all walked, you noticed that these ponies were giving you the same look as the ones in the town you caught in the train in. Most of them were of curiosity or confusion, but you're sure you saw a few looks of disgust in there. You glanced at Mouse to see that his eyes were darting in every direction. He looked nervous. That had you concerned. "Something the matter, man?" you whispered. He leaned in close to you. "There's an awful lot of guards in this city. Very City 17, he whispered back. You looked up to investigate and saw that yes, there was indeed many guards at various posts around the city. Some on roofs, some flying through the air, and some on the ground. Every guard looked the same, with a pale white coat and a set of golden armor, the only difference being whether they had horns or wings. And every last one of them was watching you. Your concerns about being watched were pushed away, however, as you arrived at what could only be the royal palace. As you reached the top of the stairs, Twilight stopped to address the guards on duty. "We're here to see the princess. We've brought friends," she says. She must have noticed everyone staring too. She looked nervous. Luckily, the guard nodded and ended the moment. "The princess is in the throne room. She's expecting you," he says. With that, you were ushered into the palace proper. You eventually entered into a large room with an equally large throne in the rear of it. A rich red carpet led up to the throne, and stained glass windows displaying various events were on the walls. Sitting on the throne was a slightly taller pony of dark blue with long flowing mane, a mane you swear could only be constellations. In addition to her coloration, you noticed that she featured both a unicorn horn and pegasi wings. You remember from your lesson that alicorns, as they were rare, are considered royalty. Based on what Twilight told you on the train, you could guess that this was Princess Luna, freed from her 1,000-year term as Nightmare Moon and returned to rule with her sister. Twilight stopped short with a puzzled expression. "Princess Luna? Why are you here during the day? Where's Celestia?" she asked. You don't know if it's the acoustics of the room or if Luna was actually that loud, but you almost went deaf when she spoke.
"Our sister is away on an urgent matter and has asked us to hold court until her return. She shall do so soon."
Placated, Twilight continues to walk towards the throne with the rest of us in tow. As you walk, you put your hand in your ear and see if you have tinnitus now. Rainbow must have noticed because she flew over to you. "Heh, be glad she wasn't using a royal voice. That's 10 times louder than what you heard." "What? She could go louder than that?" You make a mental note not to get Luna to shout. As you approach the throne, Luna stepped down to greet you all. Her eyes fell to the two of you, and she spoke up again, this time in a more pleasant volume. "You must be subject of Twilight Sparkle's letter. She had written that she was bringing a pair of strange creatures to the palace, and we feared the worst." That explains all the guards, at least, but you wonder what kind of creature warranted many soldiers. "Tell us, creature. Do you have a name?" Luna asked as she looked you over. "I'm Anon and this is Mouse," you say, Mouse nodding at his name. "It's an honor, your highness." You add a bow as you say it. Luna seemed pleased. "Rise, Anon. There is no need for that." She turned towards Mouse. "And you are Mouse? Have thee anything you wish to say?" Mouse kept his hand in his pocket as he spoke and put on a small smile. "My companion's words mirror my own, Princess Luna. It's a pleasure to meet you," he answered with a slight nod of his head. Princess Luna looked over the lot of you and spoke. "It seems thou hast found two rather intriguing beings, Twilight Sparkle. Not only are they unrecorded, but they show proper etiquette at the presence of royalty. However, we would recommend that we refrain from deeper questions until mine sister arrives." "That will not be necessary, sister. I am here," came a voice that reminded you a bit of your mom. If Luna was larger than most ponies, then this one must have been massive. In walked an alicorn of at least 5 feet, her horn pushing her well past 6. Her wings were out and appeared to be equal to her height in terms of wingspan. Her mane, like Luna's, had an almost ethereal quality to it and seemed to flow despite there being no wind. If this was Luna's sister, then this must be the one and only Princess Celestia, ruler of Equestria and bringer of the sun. Twilight got an excited look on her face and bounded up to her.
Princess!
She shouted. As she reached her, they both placed their necks in each other's. Some sort of pony greeting, you guess. The princesses approached you both as her eyes darted back and forth between the two of you, though her warm smile never left.
You must be the creatures my student wrote to me about. I welcome you to Canterlot. I suggest we find somewhere more comfortable where we can indulge our curiosities,
she says. Oh hell. First Twilight on the train, and now her teacher in a palace. This was looking to be a long day. You heard an exasperated sigh over your shoulder before Mouse spoke up. Let me save us all some time. We are humans, male, in our mid-20s with a life expectancy of 80. We come from a planet called Earth where there are billions of others like us. Our diet is omnivorous and our species evolved from apes millions of years ago. We have absolutely no idea how we came to your kingdom, save that it involved a bright white light and a lot of spinning. We are grateful for your hospitality and are of no threat to you or your kingdom and its inhabitants. The room was silent, as all eyes were on Mouse standing there with his arms crossed. Anything else you wanted to know, your highness? He says, a scent of irritation creeping into his voice. Celestia's eyes narrowed as she stared at the both of you.
You say that you have arrived here in a bright white light,
she asked. It got through our thick blinds enough to light up the room like the sun, you answered. Was all you got from Celestia, as she paced for a moment before looking at her student.
Twilight, your letter said that these humans arrived with a building of some kind. Were there scorch marks on the outside?
What? Scorch marks? You didn't see any scorch?
Yes, princess, as well as a lot of magical residue. The curious thing was that I didn't find any on Anon or Mouse at all.
Wait a second, you say. I didn't see any scorch marks. Mouse put his hand on your shoulder and you turned to him. I saw them, dude. They were going up from the underside of our house. You probably missed them, what with the weirdness of the moment. Mouse looked around the room. No offense, he says quietly.
None taken, says Celestia. This is a rather strange situation. It almost sounds like a waygate brought the both of you here. But there would be residue from it on both of you, unless...
Celestia turned towards the both of you. From her horn erupted a white light that laced toward Mouse. He raised his arm to protect his head, only light to hit his stomach and cascade off as if it were water. You cringed as some of the light raced toward you, but it did the same thing when it hit your outstretched arm, splintering over and hitting the walls behind you. You looked at Mouse. He looked pissed. What the hell, lady? He shouted as his eyes went wild and his arm was went to the back of his belt. Celestia was quick to defuse, however.
I apologize, but I had to rule out the possibility that you two both had a way of disrupting magic that you could only take effect if you were aware of it. That does not appear to be the case.
So what is the case? Mouse growled, his head low.
Tell me, human, do they have magic on your world?
She asked, standing her ground. No, you responded. No, we don't have magic. The princess lowered her head and shut her eyes for a moment.
So that's it.
Celestia turned and looked Twilight in the eye.
It would appear that these two are immune to the direct effects of magic.
She turned back to the two of you.
Most likely from being from a world where it does not exist.
Mouse relaxed a bit. You mean that everyone in Equestria is magic in some way? He asked. Celestia canted her head to the side and she spoke.
All of my little ponies are, along with several of the other species that inhabit our forests.
She walked over to the other 5 ponies and spoke again.
Unicorns are primary users of magic due to their horns, which act as a focus.
After she spoke, Rarity's hair was enveloped in a light blue aura as it rearranged itself into a better shape.
Pegasi have a more inherent connection to magic, one that allows them to walk and interact with clouds.
Rainbow Dash spoke up with that.
Yeah, it's what lets us change the weather to whatever we need.
Celestia came up to Applejack at last.
Earth ponies have a special connection to the land itself, one that makes them ideal for agriculture.
Applejack smiled and nodded at the last part. So, magic can affect ponies because they all have some magic inside them, like a current.
Precisely,
Celestia says.
What's more, even species that cannot use magic themselves are affected by it, as the land of Equestria itself is magical. Their time here causes them to absorb some of the latent magics into their bodies. But you two, she continued, you two seem to block off all magic. Direct or latent,
She finished. Huh. Blocked off from all magic in a world where it was prevalent. That was kind of cool. Almost like a superpower. Celestia picked up again.
However, there's one more test I would like to perform with your permission, of course.
Sure, you say. Curious as to where this would go. You turn to your bro. Mouse? He seemed to think for a minute, then relaxed from his defensive stance and spread his arms. Whenever you're ready, your majesty, he says. Celestia nodded and caused her horn to glow, followed by your shirt starting to glow. You felt your shirt move on its own and saw that Mouse was dealing with the same thing. Your chest leaned forward as you tried to hold your ground before the glow receded, taking the pulling sensation with it.
It seems that you are, however, affected by an environment manipulated by magic.
You guess every superpower has a weakness. Here's hoping no one gets mad enough to play The Floor is Lava for real. So what does this mean? You hear Mouse ask.
Why, it means that we're just going to have to try that much harder if we want to send you back,
says Celestia.
That will take some time, however. Therefore, I invite you to stay in Equestria as a guest of the crown.
This princess was nice, accommodating you at the same time as you worked to fix your situation without asking for something in return. You wish some people back on Earth were like that. Thank you, your majesty. You're too kind. You bow after you finish. Even Mouse bows with you, albeit not as deep.
Now, you'll need a place to stay. I understand that your home came with you when you arrived here?
She asked with a grin. Twilight answered for you.
Yes, princess. It landed in a field in the outskirts of Ponyville.
Giggling at a town called Ponyville seemed rude at a time like this, so you silenced yourself. Wait, your home got wrecked when it landed. Excuse me, princess, but our house is damaged when it landed. All of our power and plumbing was severed. The house is rather inhospitable right now. Twilight turned to look at you.
Oh, don't worry. I can fix that just by altering the ley lines in town a bit. That's how the rest of town takes care of utilities. We can help you fix any structural damage, too.
Wow, these ponies were practically saints by your standards. So, now what? Mouse asked as he returned his hands to his pockets. Twilight puts a hoof to her chin.
I was planning on us being here longer. The train back doesn't leave for a while.
Luna speaks up for the first time in a while. We fear the citizens of Canterlot may not be as open to the prospect of unknown creatures walking around its walls. We offer you free passage to this floor of the palace until you may take your leave, but venture no further. Luna's words made sense. Just because you were permitted to stay didn't mean you should go to and announce it. Thank you, princess. I'll take you up on that, you say. As both Luna and Celestia nod, you make your way over to the stained glass window you saw. Out of the corner of your eye, you see Celestia talk to Luna and leave the room. Royal duties, probably. That's a nice garden out there. That's a nice garden out there. You turn to see Mouse standing at the window next to you. Are we allowed out there? Are we allowed out there? He asks. Luna nods her head and points toward the door you came in. Head down that door and take the stairs on your right. They'll take you to the garden. Mouse nods his head in thanks and walks off, and so you turn your attention back to the window. You're so engrossed that you didn't notice Twilight walk up beside you.
Enjoying yourself?
She asked, causing you to jump. And she giggles a bit at your expense before she looks up at the window, her face dropping.
This window shows what a horrible place Discord made Equestria before the princesses stopped him,
she says. The window showed some sort of creature that seemed to be an amalgam of several other controlling ponies with puppet controllers. Hold the phone. I thought you said that you and your friends beat Discord, you asked, starting to lose the nice little history you had in your head.
That was after he got released,
she answered, putting her mind at ease. You continued looking at the window until a thought entered your mind. This window overlooked the garden where Mouse was, and you couldn't see him. That made you nervous. Change of perspective. Mouse's point of view. This garden was nice, as you thought it was quiet here, save for the birds. The setting sun cast harsh shadows over the statues. You heard something behind you. A small hallway leading into the castle rests underneath the archway. You can hear muffled voices coming from it. Curious. You start walking through the hallway, hoping to find some source of voices. You're careful to make a little noise with your feet as possible. No easy task in boots. The voices are getting louder, but not easier to decipher. The echo in here was distorting them. You could hear one male and one female, however. You heard a laugh from the female as you reached the corner and coming through. You took a quick peek around to see who was there. To your surprise, it was Celestia. She seemed to be talking to a guard. So that's where you went, you think to yourself. You listen in.
You did well at your post earlier, Corporal,
Celestial says in a voice you could only describe as sultry. The corporal responded with a voice that spoke of gratitude. Thank you for allowing me to take that post, Your Highness.
It was my pleasure.
Cooed Celestia.
In fact, I was hoping to see you at that post again,
she says as she moved closer to the guard.
Perhaps tonight?
You were spying on two ponies talk about their sex lives. Gross. Let's keep going. The guard grew a wide smile on his face. I will serve with great pride, Your Highness. Celestia looked at him with lidded eyes.
Very good, Corporal. Now, perhaps you should return to your current post before you're missed,
she says. Of course, Your Majesty. The guard says as he galloped down the hall. As you stood, you saw that Celestia hadn't moved an inch. From the look of it, she was staring at the guard's ass. I wondered why you were late earlier, you called out. Celestia whirled around so fast you could hear the wind break. Now I know, you say as you stepped out into view.
How much did you hear?
She asked with her eyes wide. Enough to guess that this place doesn't seem to have an HR department. Celestia regained a bit of her composure.
Why are you here? I thought you were waiting in the throne room.
I took a walk in the garden and followed some voices I heard, you say. You started walking towards her. A nice place like this, you never know what kind of conspirators could be lurking about. I felt it was my duty to protect my new monarch. She narrowed her eyes.
I shall have to install a door down here.
Or you could just talk about fucking your guards someplace where there aren't any other ponies. Try carrier birds. She got a small grin as her eyes narrowed more, a glint of mischief sparking in them. At least she could appreciate your sarcasm. You were a few feet apart now, and she was staring into your eyes, not an angry stare, but a cold one.
What will you do with this information, then?
That question sounded like a test to you. You keep staring at her in silence, as if she was going to pull that crap, but she was going to sweat it out for a bit. Nothing.
Nothing?
She looked a bit taken aback. From what I understand, you're over a millennium old. To think that you've gone without for this entire time is idiotic. That guard seemed consenting enough, though I doubt he's the only one. You say. You keep staring, your expression changing from one of slight boredom. Still, you seem on the level. I also owe you a debt for letting Anon and I stay in your kingdom. I have no problem keeping my mouth shut. Her eyes widened, but she kept her grin.
Well then, we'll have an accord. Shall we return to the throne room?
Lead the way, princess. You walked next to the princess for a ways until she spoke up again. Your demeanor strikes me as odd, Mouse.
Your demeanor strikes me as odd, Mouse. Many ponies would try to keep the fact that they heard what you heard hidden.
She asked, not looking at you. You keep walking. You weren't going to make eye contact if she wasn't. I'm an odd kind of guy.
Odd enough to try and sneak a knife into the home of royalty?
She asked. Shit. She knew about that? Alright, play cool. I didn't know you then, and I had to watch out for myself and Anon. If I had known what I know about you now, I probably wouldn't have bothered. You say. She looked at you with a devious grin.
Why, Mouse, whatever do you mean by that?
You're kind, at least to the people you've never met. She chuckled.
I'm rather kind to those I have met too.
Keep it deadpan, I've noticed. You say. You keep walking, letting that bit of innuendo die. But suicidal overconfidence isn't the only reason I'm odd.
How so?
She asked playfully. Oh, I'm sure you'll find out, Princess. I don't exactly hide it. She nodded as you both kept walking. Eventually, you reached the throne room from the same entrance as Celeste you came into earlier. She stopped you before you walked in.
You are quite a unique individual, Mouse.
She asked through lidded eyes.
I have one more question if you'll allow it.
Shit. You'll bite. Shoot. She leans close to whisper into your ear.
Do you like bananas?
You're almost certain that statement had some meaning, but damned if you can't figure it out. Oh well, when in doubt, play it off. You put on your best mock offended face and look her in the eye. Why, Princess, I certainly hope you aren't implying that I enjoy bananas simply because my kind evolved from monkeys. I would think such speciesism above you. You tease. You start to walk away and leave her there. You look at her over your shoulder with a grin. Besides, bananas are gross. With that, you keep walking. You can feel her own grin on your back. You ignore it and catch Anand's attention as he approaches you. Where'd you go, dude? I couldn't see you out the window, he says. No reason he should know what you saw. I got a little sidetracked in the hallway and got lost. The princess found me and was kind enough to walk me back. You answer. He looks over your shoulder and makes a face. That princess? He asks. You look over your shoulder and see Celestia staring and grinning. She's trying to rustle your jimmies. It isn't working. That's the one, you say as you turn back to Anand. Anand takes his eyes off Celestia and shakes his head. Well, let's go. Train leaves in 20, he says. Right, let's roll. As you and your friends, both old and new, walk out, you hear the princess call out to you.
Goodbye, everyone. Feel free to come back whenever you please.
Celestia shouts. You could find something sinister in that phrase if you looked. Fuck that. It's late and you had a hell of a day. The train ride back was considerably quieter than the one from before. Everyone seemed tired after the events of the day. The only ones awake were you, Anand, Twilight, and Rainbow Dash. Damn, but this scenery was boring. Even worse than the first ride up here, you couldn't see a damn thing. Probably something to do with being night. Well, almost couldn't see a damn thing. You could see stars. You have to hand it to Luna. She made her night sky damned impressive. You could never hope to see a view like this back home. Even with Canterlot off the distance, the stars were shining bright. You couldn't begin to count them all. Twilight snuck up on the two of you, interrupting your train of thought. Train of thought.
Have the two of you put any thought into where you're going to stay?
She asked. Huh? Was the apartment not good enough? Is our apartment not good enough? Anand retorted. That is why he was your bro. You two were always on the same wavelength.
Well, I guess you could.
She says, her face contorting. She looked doubtful.
But didn't you say your house was damaged? Are you sure you want to stay there?
She asked. Damn, you forgot about that. You put your hand on the window. Shit, it was hearth cold outside. You did not want to stay in the house with that heat when it was like this outside. I guess you're right, Anand sighed out. Fuck, this was not good. Living on another planet was one thing. Living on one with no house was another. Hey, you guys can crash in my place if you want. Huh? You looked behind your seat. Rainbow Dash was listening in. Having some guests for a while might be cool, she says. This girl only just met you and was already offering her house to you. That was serious bro material. Twilight shook her head.
That isn't going to work, Rainbow.
Everyone turned to Twilight.
These two can't walk on clouds like you can, and they're both immune to magic, so we can't exactly try a cloud walking spell,
she says. Oh yeah, you had magic immunity. You haven't had it for a day and it's already biting you in the ass. Well, shit. So what do we do now? Twilight puts a hoof to her chin and thinks.
Well, I suppose you can stay in the library until we can get your home fixed up.
Worked for you. You turned to a nod. You game? He nodded at you. Beggars can't be choosers. We don't have much of a choice, he says. He had a point there. Twilight perked up.
Perfect. You two will stay with me tonight,
She says with a grin. After stepping off the train, you, Anon, and Twilight said your goodbyes to the others and made your way for her house. You picked up some dinner at a bakery on the way. Had to keep your energy up. Twilight levitated the two of you some pillows and blankets as she prepared to take the sleeping Spike up to bed. She looked sheepishly at you.
I don't have any extra beds in your size. Sorry.
You've done more than enough letting us sleep here, Twilight. We can tough it out for a night, you say. That seemed to cheer her up. She smiled as she walked up the stairs.
Good night, you two,
she called out. Good night, you both say. You and Anon lay down on the hardwood floor as Twilight turns out the lights. It's quiet here. Definitely quiet. Damn your tinnitus. As you lie there, you have a thought. Hey, dude, what's up? You hear Anon ask in the darkness. You think our families noticed what happened? You hear him sigh. He probably thought of that. Had more family members than you did. Not to mention more that he liked.
I don't know, man. Probably.
It's not like an apartment disappearing into thin air is common or anything, he says. You lay there for a moment. It's just, we could be here for a while. Your mom was probably worried sick if she had heard, assuming she wasn't raising hell trying to find you. You hear him shift on the hardwood. Yeah, we could. You both lay there in silence. Well, shit. This mood went sour quick. Have to salvage it at least a little bit. Still, might as well make the best of it. If we fix up the apartment, then we can at least be comfortable until Celestia comes up with something. Yeah, you're right, you hear him say. As you lay there, you hear him yawn. The events of the day must be catching up to him. Interdimensional travel sure takes it out of a guy. Night, bro. Good night, dude, he says, yawning again. You lay on the hardwood floor for a bit longer until eventually a non-snoring lulls you to sleep.